respectful of your time, because we don't have a lot of time this evening, and I want to get through as many people as we possibly can. We're waiting on one senator, but she'll catch up. Thank you very much for coming. I don't know about you, this is my first time in this building. This is amazing. So I'm very much enjoying being here, and thank Washington State University for letting us use their facility. And thanks to all of you for coming. This is an opportunity to tell us what you think about the issue at hand. And you all know the issue. Our state river days. As you know, there's a concerted effort and a growing effort. How many adjectives can I use to this? It's becoming a more, I won't say popular idea, but an idea that has been growing in awareness on the part of a lot of people on both sides of the issue, and that's the fate of the state river dams. I think it's pretty clear where I stand on this issue. I don't want to color anyone else's, well, no, actually I do. I want to color everybody's opinions about this, but I respect everybody's opinion, and I know we may have people on both sides of the issue in this room, and that's totally fine. But I wanted to put this meeting together for a very important reason. As I told you, there's a lot of things happening working towards the ultimate breaching of the 4 lower state river dams. The Biden administration has done several things recently to move that process forward. They put together they call it the Columbia River Task Force. It's made up of administration officials, people that interestingly don't even live in the Pacific Northwest. And the unfortunate thing about the task force is that it lacks the participation of those people that depend on the river system, those people that rely on the river system for many, many different reasons. And so I think there needs to be balance. I'm going to be pushing as hard as I can for the administration to include as many voices as possible in this. And so that's the reason, one of the big reasons why we're here. One of the things that I see my job as a representative of Congress representing you is to bring your voice to Washington, D.C. And I can't do that unless I hear your voice. So this try to make it as easy as possible for people to express their thoughts, their opinions, their perspectives on this, I think, one of the most important potential decisions that could be made in our region. And it's on top of that, it's very important for those individuals that are up here and with me at this table, whether they work in Olympia or whether they work at the local county courthouse, the places that make decisions that impact our futures. These are the decision makers that also need to have your voices in their minds when they go to those important opportunities to express their opinions, so that they can elevate your voices, make your voices heard in the halls of the state legislature, Congress, and like I said, county courthouses, where people see firsthand what's happening. So that's why we're here. Simple as that. And so I'm going to give the folks up here just a couple of couple of minutes each to introduce themselves. You can never keep a politician down in seconds. And then we're going to go right to you guys. I'll go through the logistics after the introductions, but I just want to say thank you all for coming. Appreciate very much your willingness to, you could be watching lots of different things on TV tonight, enjoying the warm summer evening, lots of other things to do, but this is an important thing. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your evenings to be here with us. So with that, I'm going to pass the microphone first to my right, Senator Dozier.
Thank you very much, Congressman. Just a real quick introduction of myself. I have been a farmer in Walla Walla County for 65 years. When the first dam was built, I was 4 years old. And I've seen the transformation of western Walla Walla County and southeastern Franklin County into being some of the most productive farm ground in the world. Also, I have served on the Washington Association of Wheat Growers. I was state president in 2001. In 2001, I was asked by Senator Patty Murray to testify at a hearing in Washington, D.C. when we were back there about the benefits of the three modes of transportation that we have in Washington State, that being road, river, and rail. And river is extremely important for us. From there, I went on and I've served as county commissioner. Now I'm your state senator representing the 16th district. One of the most important things that I see that we have here is I'm so happy that we have the opportunity to have state leaders and county leaders here, is because we have not really talked about the impacts that this is going to have on our state. We know that definitely we have energy issues that need to be addressed. We have transportation issues that need to be addressed. And we don't have enough funding for our transportation right now without continuing to keep those three modes of transportation. I really look forward to answering more questions. Also, again, I served on Northwest Grain Growers Board of Directors for 9 years, City Grain for 3 years, and we rely heavily on the river system to move our products downstream. So, long history of this, and look forward to questions. Thank you very much.
I'm Representative April Connors. I'm from the 8th District, which is most all of Kennewick, part of Richland, and part of Pasco, so Benton and Franklin counties. I do not serve on an Energy and Environment Committee in the State House, but I do serve on our Housing Committee, and I'm an assistant ranking member there. And one of the things we talk about a lot in the State House is in the next 20 years, we're going to need 1 million more housing units in the state of Washington. And in order to power those units, we're going to have to rely on energy sources, our dams, nuclear power. I see those folks in the audience tonight too, to be able to put those houses, not only power them, but to be able to build them. Our State Building Code Council has added numerous regulations every year. I think there was over 100 this year onto building a new home in Washington State. And they keep moving more and more towards electrical power, away from gas, as we're seeing. And so relying on our dams and making sure that our dams stay in place is really important to me. Also, our family, like Representative or Senator Dozier's, are farmers in agriculture. My husband's family is a third-generation farmer just north of the Tri-City area. And so for us, the dams are super important. We completely rely on them for our energy power, not so much for the irrigation systems that a lot of our farmers do, but excited to be here tonight and to be able to listen and hear other concerns that you might have regarding the Snake River dams in our community. I also spent a lot of time in my first legislative session fighting some of the regulations on the wind turbines in Washington State.
Yes, she was very successful on the blinking lights at night bill. So we're very grateful for her hard work as a freshman and really a magnificent success on the part of Representative Connors. I'm State Representative Mary Dye. I represent the 9th Legislative District, which covers 7 counties of southeastern Washington and includes the 4 lower Snake River dams. I live 6 or 7 miles, by the way, the crow flies from Lower Granite Dam, and it's been really a fundamental piece of my entire political life from when I married my farmer and the first threats in the Save Our Dams campaign happened. We were the Save Our Dams family, 2 small children in the bun in the oven, and fighting for the resources that the dams and the services that the dams provide. But now I am serving in the legislature and have been for the last 9 years, and I serve as ranking on environment and energy, and have had the opportunity to work with so many in the energy sector. And I would say that even as of last month, when the National Council on Environmental Legislators met, the Northwest Power Council had said that and they've been telling this for a long time, that we face a tsunami of energy demand, electrical energy demand. And so as we're talking about electrifying electrifying everything for climate, and doing so with wind and solar, we need the battery storage of our reservoirs. Our reservoirs back that energy up so that we don't have catastrophic failure on our grid. And it means really saving people's lives by having a secure energy supply and a grid that is sustainable, but not only sustainable, can manage the anticipated growth that's going to happen as a result of policies that we've passed to move a lot of our transportation, consumption, and more importantly, the demand that our AI and the data that will be necessary to run the AI will require tremendous amounts more energy than we have currently. And so I'm here to say that we can ill afford to decommission energy, baseload energy sources that provide stability as we introduce intermittent, weather-dependent energy sources onto the grid. And as we introduce many, many more demands on our grid. So I'm just here to listen and hear what you have to say and reflect on that in the light of the policies that are going to require tremendous more electrons on the grid and more transmission, more distribution, more generation, and that generation needs to be sustainable and baseload, and there's many opportunities that we can have to enhance the capacity of our hydro system to meet that demand in meaningful ways. But we can't do it if we decommission large amounts of that hydropower base.
Good evening. My name is LaDon Lindy. I'm from Sunnyside, Washington, and I'm a Yakima County Commissioner. I've been in this position since 2020. I'd like to start by telling a story. In 2000, it was a presidential campaign year. My family and I had a family farm near Sunnyside, and in the presidential debate, there was a conversation about the future of the Snake River dams, and we had Republican candidates that were hemming and hawing on what they would do. And George W. Bush came to Pasco, and he said, "If I'm president, those dams are not going down. They're not going away." He stated, you reminded us that he was from Texas and understood the value of water and how vital it was. And it was right then that George W. Bush got my vote for president because he stood firm on the principle. I will just simply say that there are so many values to the Snake River dams and what they provide, and I think you all know them. One is irrigated agriculture, of course, the value of flood control. Also, we don't always think about this as much, but it was earlier alluded to the issue of barge transportation, getting goods to market on the barges. That does a great deal, not only to lower costs, but to reduce the wear and tear on our highways here in Washington State, which are already, from a maintenance standpoint, we're already behind there. So that's another value, as well as the electricity that it offers. It's been stated by others here tonight that as we look at future demands, we need an all of the above energy strategy, including keeping clean energy like that's provided by the dams, hydroelectric, as well as nuclear. But with that, I'll just pass the mic on to Senator Torrance.
And thank you everyone for being here this evening. Glad to be here alongside my colleagues. Sorry I got a little lost on the way in here. Until I did not go to school at WSU, but I do live in Pasco. And for me, the dams have a great importance. As you've heard, many of the uses of the dams is already the energy source, number one. Number two, agriculture. When you look at the 15th district, which is what I currently represent, is Sunnyside, Yakima Valley, and northern Pasco, Fellow, and Mattawa, portions of 5 counties, water is a very valuable resource that we need. And if we're not able to capture and store it, we face drought many, many years in a row, and that can harm our agricultural production. And especially when you consider the fact that we are pretty much the fruit basket of the state. I mean, we need those dams, and we need them because we need to make sure that we
just outside of Washington. I currently live in Ritzville. The dams have been a big part of my life from recreational stuff. And for about 45 years, I moved most of my wheat crop by truck to Windvest Station just below Lower Monumental Dam. And it's hard for me to picture not having that option anymore. It concerns me greatly as a wheat grower that my only option may become the railroads. And once it becomes a complete monopoly, I don't think I'm going to be treated very kindly in the future. I want to thank Congressman Newhouse for putting this session together. And the little placard up here says 2 minutes or less, so I'm going to try and honor that. As a county commissioner, one of the things that concerns me the most about losing the dams would be the alternatives for energy production that we are seemingly focused on. And from a county standpoint, that creates some fairly serious headaches that I would rather not have to deal with. So I'm going to try and keep it to 2 minutes. Mr. Stone bet me I couldn't do it, so.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and keep mine to 2 minutes as well. I see a lot of friendly faces and recognizable faces in here. I want to go ahead and say thank you for all coming. I was city councilman here in Richland and also the mayor of Richland about a year and a half when I won election here too as a Benton County Commissioner. So as the mayor of Richland, for anybody out of town, as well as the county commissioner, welcome to the city of Richland, welcome to Benton County. I want to go ahead and talk a few minutes, about 2 minutes or less, about some of the pros of the dams. So I'm going to go ahead and I just wrote this real quick. I've been in meetings all day, but I wanted to go ahead and see some pros about the dams. So first and foremost, the Lower Snake River dams provide affordable, clean, and reliable energy for our communities and farmers. These dams produce a lot of energy and no greenhouse gas emissions. The Lower Snake River dams produce 3,800 megawatts of carbon-free energy to our region. It has many positive attributes, such as navigation, transportation of wheat, that benefits us both nationally and on the global market. The dams provide better navigable waters to help transport larger quantities of products at a much lower cost than other means of transportation. The dams also produce much needed water for irrigation for our farmers. Without it, tens of thousands of acres of farmland would be greatly impacted. Other benefits to our region include flood control and recreation. The cost to renew these dams would be in the billions of dollars, and the impact to our region would be disastrous. I read a fact sheet from the Bonneville Power Administration dated March 2016. It also states that the 4 Lower Snake River dams include some of the most advanced, successful fish passage systems in the world. The dams are now on track to achieve standards of a 96% average dam survival rate for young spring chinook and steelhead migrating downstream. So I ask, instead of spending billions of dollars tearing down the dams that have so many benefits to our region, could we look at improving the hatcheries, allowing them to release more fish, and use updated technology to help these salmons? I think if we all work together and use common sense, we can do it and find solutions in other means to keep our dams together. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Stephen Bauman. I'm a Franklin County Commissioner, and I thought I would share with you just a couple of things from growing up. Some of you are familiar with a road called Dodd Road. I remember when I was about 6 years old, out at the end of Dodd Road, there was a sign. I believe it was about like a 4x8 sign. It said, "Scientifically proven to be the most productive farm ground on earth." Anybody remember reading that sign? No? I remember that. My dad did some work out there, and that always, I've never forgotten that since I was that old. The only way that it can be the most productive farm ground on earth is with water. And that comes from us having access to these dams. These dams provide reliable baseload power. And baseload power is incredibly important. We have a lot of sun on the eastern side of the state, and that's very valuable, of course, for solar panels, but it is not reliable at night. It is not reliable in the 4 to 6 weeks per year that we have overcast and cloudy skies here. We can go 6 weeks with no sun in this area. So what do you do then? And as Representative Dye said, it's a reliable thought I would try to remember how many million gallons. I think it's 83 million gallons of water per cycle of the locks, but it's been a while because you can't go and visit the way you used to could. Been in the powerhouses there, and it's reliable. Whether it's dark, whether it's cloudy, it's reliable baseload power, and that is incredibly important in our region. And Windust Park, growing up going to Windust Park, that's a long ways out there, but it's recreation for our communities on the Snake River. I met a couple of weeks ago with the Colonel, with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and our topic was recreation on the Snake River. And we're going to hear, hopefully within the next month or so, we're going to sit down and meet again about some of the parks and the importance of those. And that is only possible because of these dams and the value that they are to the community. Others have talked about the importance of agriculture to our community. For Franklin County has over $1 billion worth of agricultural value. Not all from the Snake River, but they are incredibly important. The breadbasket of the Pacific Northwest is our communities and is extraordinarily important. And we can have the dams and have fish passage. We can do that. We have the technology, we have the will, and we need to do this together. Removing the Snake River dams is not the answer.
I get to have everybody else's time, I think. We need a clock. I have a lot to say. I was only introduced to this subject recently. I'm Lori Zoller from Clickitat County. I'm a Clickitat County Commissioner. My first year and a half has been very busy, so I haven't kept my eye on the ball on the Snake River dams, and I'm thankful to be invited to this meeting. I have a background history from both sides of the streets. I was raised by a good, hardworking family in the timber industry and agriculture. I married into recreation, and today my husband and I have one of the longest standing fishing guide service permit from Fish and Wildlife in the state of Washington. I also was appointed by the Governor's Salmon Recovery Team for the first go-round that they developed for salmon recovery in the state of Washington, and was the administrator for WIRA 29 and 30 for the beginning of fish recovery and watershed planning in Clickitat County. So I have kind of a broad-based knowledge of each side of what this is. My introduction to power has been at Clickitat County because we are the largest county in the state. We are this county in the state with the largest amount of green power energy in our county. We started accepting applications several years ago. We have 609 windmills, and we have over 12,000 acres slated to become solar. We have huge concerns that we're working on because the permit system is what I would call faulty. It was pulled out from under us. It doesn't honor our land use planning or our citizens' wishes. It's been given to APSEC, a Nuclear Energy Regulatory Committee by the governor, and they can bypass the land use planning and cite those sites. So that's tough for our community. And I just want to call these dams a clean energy battery, and that is very, very true. Right now, one of our biggest issues in Clickitat County that we're facing is we have no regulations written for the 5-acre plus lithium battery power plants that will have to come in to store power from the solar farms for overnight, so we can use that in off times. There's no regulations written on how to fight fires for those. There's no regulations written for their placement. So that's one of the biggest issues I'm fighting in Clickitat County right now and working on. I can tell you that we are downstream, so our view is a little bit different from using the dams, the recreation or the things that they supply. It will incredibly impact our transportation and our barging. And it will touch everyone. If these dams are gone and the power situation changes, every citizen will be impacted, every business will be impacted. As counties, we're required to do long-range planning. We'll have to scrap that long-range planning and start over. And again, that'll be an unintended consequence. Where's the money going to come for our county to redo our planning efforts? That's going to be a tough go for us. And what's driving this burden at the moment? A current administration that has built policies and implementing projects that are void of the physics of electricity. There is no true planning in place for the replacement of what dams produce. Facts and documents show that renewables such as solar and wind cannot produce sustainable capacity and those facts are being ignored. In Clickitat County, we are under the burden of the Columbia River Gorge Scenic Area and the Wetland Scenic Rivers Act. And we spent 20 to 30 years sitting on those councils, going through those meetings, hoping to have our voice heard, and watching like you do. I'm sure that you attend these meetings, and you take time off work, and you take your evenings to see things put on a flip chart that are your desires, and they go away, and the movement still goes. So I'm so thankful that Congressman Newhouse has invited everybody here tonight who's willing to put a team together to fight in DC for your voice, because that's what's going to be important for changes is your voice.
We can't hear.
You need to hold your mic close to your mouth.
Right up next.
On a lighter note, real quick, I have a fellow lawyer here, and he's gonna give me a hard time if I didn't say my name, so Michael Alvarez with Benton County.
Even closer, Michael, even closer.
So we gotta eat the microphone, is that right? Okay. All right, project. So, thank you everybody for that introduction, y'all. But like I said, tonight is the opportunity for you to tell us firsthand how this idea would impact you, your business, your family, your way of life. And we've got a couple ways to do that. Obviously, we have a microphone, and I'll remind everybody, speak into it. It's that one right there. I would ask that, just for logistics, that
Jeff,
the,
hit on Jeff.
my
My whole family is tugboat operators.
just a sec, I've got it. More things to say. Okay. So I would ask that only 5 people at a time get behind the mic, just so it doesn't get too congested. We also, I've got a couple staffers here, and hand out index cards, right? If you just want to write your question or write your idea on that, that can be read. We're pretty high tech here. We're Facebook streaming live, so those people that are doing that, joining us that way, you can submit your thoughts or questions in the comment section. And then somewhere, you guys tell me where, there's a QR code to scan. Where's that? Maybe we don't have it. But we want to get like I said, as many people as possible. I think I've got one volunteer in front of me. Let's get started, all right? You ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay. Would you rather use the podium?
I can use that one right there. So my family, tugboat operators, lifetime, don't change anything. Okay. Please, for family, I pray and ask, and I'll leave you guys alone. I'll go outside now, but don't change anything. Thank you, and yeah, they're hard working, and they sacrifice everything. So
I got a question. Tell us who you are.
Yeah, Jeff Bender, and yeah, so family, West Side, so anywhere from Battleground to Tacoma, and they're all hardworking people. So they travel up all the rivers. If it changed, way of life. Thank you. So, come on, Jeff. Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm done. Okay. Thank you guys.
We have our first. You can identify yourself.
Just like to follow that. My name's Dennis Swinger Jr. I am a 6th generation Washington farmer, 4th generation irrigated farmer. I also have the privilege of serving on the Eastern Basin Irrigation District Board Commission. Water is where I'll focus my comments tonight. We are unique in the state and in this area to have plentiful, quality water. If you look at any other watershed in the country, they're declining. They're limiting water to their producers. We don't have that issue right now because we have the dams, all of our dams. That's one of the things that should wake everybody up, as well as the transportation and the electricity. But having that good quality water as the other ones dry up is critical. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dennis. I should have mentioned that we've got timekeepers over here. We're gonna ask for a 2-minute limit, and they're gonna hold up a red sign at 30 seconds to go, right? Everybody's been doing great so
Okay.
far.
My name is Michael, Scott. My name is Michael Scrimsher. I live in western Walla Walla County. I was born the same year Ice Harbor Dam was built, and I have irrigated, recreated, and navigated on the Lower Snake River for 50 years. I'm a farm kid turned engineer. I work at Framatome, the nuclear fuel fabrication plant a mile away, and so I know a lot about the electrical generation industry in this great country. I would beg of the committee and the group to not underestimate the difficulty to replace that power if those dams are removed. We've seen near grid collapse failures in Texas and in the South, and nobody understands that if the dams are taken out, it'll be the largest baseload reduction of any power system in the U.S. in one fell swoop. And the wind turbine people and the solar energy people love to come to town, collect the tax credit, put up the windmills, put up solar panels, and then they leave. But they're weather intermittent generation systems, and they do not have the reliability that we're used to with the Snake River dams. My father and grandfather farmed for 3 generations on irrigated water pumped from the Ice Harbor pool at Snake River Vineyard, and the cost and expense to reroute those private irrigation systems over one season are astronomical and staggering. So thank you very much for your time.
Congressman Newhouse, Josh Lozano with Benton REA. I'm here on behalf of our association, our cooperative, but also on behalf of Public Power, and really to express the concerns with the lack of a voice in the room. In terms of the negotiations when it came to the MOU, the development of the Columbia River Task Force that lacks any representation from Public Power. BPA should have a seat at that table, at the very least. But it's real concerning to Public Power, especially as we look to sign our next round of 20-year contracts with BPA. The potential of 1,000 average megawatts of clean, hydro, reliable power coming off the grid is a concern. 2,800 megawatts of capacity that allows us to, take, these winter months that we're facing and back up our systems and our grid to have that great reliability. Huge concern. The other concern that we're seeing is the task force in the development of the Department of Interior's report. It reads like a legal loop.
That's a big concern for us in terms of the way that it reads. Authorization should remain in Congress.
Must be a solar microphone.
I heard the thunder. Yeah. That's great.
You're gonna have to project, Josh.
I'll do my best. So I'll just end by saying, that report really reads like a legal blueprint to put the authorization in the hands of the courts, in the hands of the administration, and that authorization needs to remain in Congress. It's a lot more diligent when it goes through the legislative process. And I would ask that you follow up with the task force, the executive director in particular, and ask them to put that in writing, that authorization is going to remain with Congress and will not be delegated to the courts or to the administration. So appreciate your support.
Hi, I'm Larry Anderson. I'm a mechanical engineer by training and experience. And when I hear about the breaching of the dams and the lack of the loss of power generation, and then I hear on the other side the demands that are coming versus electric vehicles, the deployment of artificial intelligence, conversion or the new construction where you are totally electrifying a building, commercial, residential. That strikes me as something that is you don't want to do because, and I guess the best way to put it is, right now that would be a bad dream, but if it went through, it would be a nightmare for a lot of people because they would lose. The power would become a shortage, and when then you start rationing power or rolling brownouts, these things that we've experienced in the past, where we have, excuse me, where we have limited generation, like in California. So, thank you.
My name's Lars Olson. I'm a longtime resident of the Tri-Cities and love my dams and rivers. Everybody in this room, everybody on the panel, my guess is everybody in the room could stand here and say the exact same thing. Don't get rid of the dams. Dan had a meeting down here at Richland High School. Was that last year or the year before? 2 summers ago, where to all of our surprise, Bonneville Power, the Corps of Engineers, and help me, NOAA, was having back alley meetings on whether to just go around Congress and do a drawdown, right? Are they still doing that? Do we know?
They've backed off for now, but it's still in the strategy.
Okay, and that was brought to light by one of your colleagues, came all the way from Georgia to say how the lunacy of this. In 1995, the Seattle City Council voted unanimously to breach all the dams on the lower Snake River. I don't know if everybody remembers that or not. The next day, a man wrote a letter to the editor. It was priceless. I wish I would have had a copy of it. It basically said, to the Seattle City Council, from the people of Eastern Washington, we congratulate you on your stance for the environment. However, the first thing we're going to do is shut off all your electricity. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to shut off your food, because without the water we can't grow anything. Third thing we're going to do is we're going to put 10,000 trucks a month on the I-5 corridor. The day after that, the mayor of Seattle came out with a thing saying, oh, we're so sorry, we need to put together a coalition to see what you people in Eastern Washington really do. Since then, millions and millions of dollars have been spent, and in the budget, check me, $10 million in this last year's budget, I don't know if it got passed, to study whether breaching the Snake River dams was a good idea again or not. So how do we do battle with these knuckleheads, right? How about say, if you are one of the people that wants to study it, let's do a federal investigation on where all that money went, because all the studies say the same thing. Let's figure out where all the study money went and start there. And let's get rid of the corruption, and how about spend a little money educating the people in Western Washington? I just got my flag.
I'm London Bond. In spite of this strange English accent, I've actually moved to the Tri-Cities 26 years ago, lived here for a total of 17 years, been away twice for work, now here retired, with grandchildren in the state. Now, if people have got to put some numbers down, I'm an engineer. I don't know if there's a representative of the Association of Washington Businesses. They provided a 2022 paper, which if you haven't seen it, representatives, it concludes there is no replacing the lower Snake River dams. Their cost estimate to replace the economic benefits is $31 billion. Just $31 billion. Now, apart from that big picture thing, there's about 3 gigawatts generating capacity from the dams. To replace those, that's about 3 Columbia generating stations. It is something like 3,000 1-megawatt wind turbines. People don't want them on the Horseheaven Hills. Where the heck are you going to put them? There are people on the Seattle side who don't want small nuclear plants on the Hanford Reservation. Where are we going to get 3 gigawatts of generating capacity with a 95% capacity factor or better? Nobody seems to want to actually do the basic engineering numbers and put the costs, which are rather large. So at that point, and if you wanted to talk about where the batteries go and all the rest of it, we need 50% more power if we're going to be forced to drive electric cars. Again, another umpteen gigawatts of generating capacity. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm glad the microphone works again. My name's Felton Jenkins. I'm from West Klickitat County in the 4th District, but 2.5 hours away. I'm an avid hunter, avid angler. Used to work for a Weyerhaeuser company. I own my own business and pay taxes in Klickitat County, enough of them and enough to the federal government. I'm not from the Sierra Club or anything, but I'd like to offer a different perspective. I think we can replace the services that the 4 dams provide, and we can do it before any breaching would occur. It's an economic development opportunity, and it would be new jobs for the Tri-Cities and the surrounding communities. Congressman Mike Simpson, who's a conservative Republican congressman from Idaho, he offered a very rational plan to achieve these goals: improve the transportation system, improve the energy grid, improve the rail system, etc. There are about 65 major dams in the Columbia-Snake River Basin. So we're talking about 4 of those 65, or 6% of the dams. They generate about 4 to 5% of the region's power. The dams were finished in 1975. They were a pork barrel project that snuck through Congress after being rejected several times. I know a lot of people here were born before 1975, and there was a lot of business and agriculture that was going on in eastern Washington before 1975. WDFW said back in the 60s, when the snake dams were being considered, that it would be the straw that would break the camel's back if salmon runs, and it's true. It's not just 3 to 4% mortality to salmon smolt that go downriver in a dam. That's per dam, so you multiply that times 8, you're talking about a 20 to 30% mortality. And if the hatcheries really worked, we wouldn't be in a salmon crisis right now. We wouldn't be talking about this if hatcheries worked. They don't. Taxpayers have spent billions of dollars on salmon recovery. It's not working. Compared to 200 years ago, we've reduced salmon and steelhead runs by over 95%. Let's not wipe out the last 5%, which is where we're going. I've got so much more to say, and I came from such a long distance, and I'm so outnumbered by the nice people here. But, you know, just the last thing I'll say is I came to that hearing in Richland last summer, and there was no independent fisheries scientists, there were no independent economists, there was nobody from any of the tribes that came to speak, no fishing industry representatives, either commercial or recreational, no outdoor recreation people, no conservation people, and not Congressman Simpson. So that's my perspective from a diversity standpoint. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Carl Serzolette. I'm a resident of the city of Richland, and I work in an industry that depends on our water for our farming, potato related, but I don't want to say company name. But first of all, I appreciate that kind of preaching to the choir here. All of you seem to be rational in terms of thinking of economic impact, water, power, transportation, all of that around the dams. The only argument I've heard from the removal side is about the salmon. Yet 6 days ago, there was an article that talked about the record sockeye salmon run on the Columbia River that made it through like 9 dams to get to where they needed to go. Where did the fish stop? Just short of their spawning grounds in Canada. Why? Because the water temperature is too hot. And I have yet to see a study or any data that shows how if we remove those dams, which will lower the water level in the Columbia River with the heat that we have, how that's not going to have a greater impact on that sockeye migration from the heat of the water, then the proper management, habitat restoration that we've done to improve the salmon runs. And this week's runs prove that is all working. So my question is, how do we convince the rest of Washington, both the state and our federal government, to look at things from a rational, data-driven perspective versus emotion? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Liddingson. I'm from Yakima, Selah area. And Lindy is one of my commissioners up there. Thank you for being here. My concern is the same as so many that have spoken before us, that overriding all of this, and I brought this up to you, Dan, one other time in a phone conversation we had in one of our meetings, public meetings. This is not just a local issue. This is not just a riverside issue. This goes all the way to Canada. The gentleman just brought up the sockeye salmon run, and he's right on. But what was interesting in that article, there was a NOAA individual, I think that's who it was, or some fisheries individual, that also commented that this same type of holding pattern that the fish are in up there is most likely happened without the dams decades ago, centuries ago. It's a common phenomenon that would happen in any year possible with the heat that we're experiencing. But over and above that, two things. I think this is not just a riverside issue, it's a river length issue, goes clear to Canada. I made a living, I was in sales for 50 years, all through eastern Washington. I've been in every county in the state of Washington for one reason or another. I made my living in that way. Those river counties along here made a substantial portion of my living. Thank you very much. But this is the bigger issue. It's a national security issue. This goes beyond the state of Washington. These dams, these 4 dams are the beginning. Don't doubt. As this moves on, there's going to be more dams being forced into removal. This becomes a national security issue, overriding all the other parts and pieces. Dan, I'm wondering, and you don't need to answer this, you probably don't have the answer. I know there's a new Columbia River Treaty between Canada and the U.S. was just put together here in the last couple of days. I'm wondering how that then impacts positively or negatively downstream to the rivers, to the Snake River and the 4 dams that we're talking about now. Might give me the answer on that.
That's a little difficult to answer. It's an agreement in principle. A lot of the details are still being worked out, so it kind of remains to be seen.
One of the things I noticed in reading the summary that I read yesterday was that Canada has agreed to have a greater holding of waters back to provide more flow through the spring, summer period, or hot seasons. That was achieved in there. The other thing was that Canada has agreed to take 40% less of the power that they've been given as part of the agreement. So they're only going to get 60% of the power that they were. I don't know how that positively or negatively goes out. And then 10 years down the road, it's 50%. But thank you. Oh, one last thing. I'm a communicator. I was in sales for 50 years. Dan, whatever I can do to volunteer to assist in communicating through the counties in Washington State to make more people aware of what's going on, that communication needs to happen. People don't have any idea.
Can you leave your contact info?
Hello, my name is Greg Keys. I'm a retired dam electrical engineer. I had almost 17 years career working at Wanapum and Priest Rapids dams. When this whole issue came up, I kind of looked at it and I tried to read some information on it. And this is, I said, well, I know the dams can provide power, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. So if you're going to take out, the 4 Snake River dams, you're going to lose a lot of power. And then I also know the grid. And, I think it was a study, it might have been the RAND Corporation or something, that said, okay, we're going to take the dams out, we're just going to put up some solar panels and some windmills, and that's going to solve the issue. Now, the thing about the power grid is there's two, the power grid, maximum power use is in the middle of winter and it's in the middle of summer. Middle of summer for air conditioning, middle of winter for heating. Now, solar can provide power in the summer. Wind, usually what happens when you get a cold spell is the wind might blow something in, but then you have an inversion and it doesn't blow much. Most of the winds blow in the spring and the fall. So it doesn't look like just putting up some solar panels and some wind is going to, generate the power. Okay. So my next question, some people have mentioned this. Priest Rapids has a Grant PUD, which runs Priest Rapids and Wanapum Dam, which is where I was at, they're very involved, spending a lot of resources in the salmon. Just outside of southeast of the Priest Rapids Dam, maybe a quarter mile or so, is a fish hatchery that raises, my understanding, is around 12 million fall Chinook. Okay? Now, in addition, when I was there, they put in 2 fish acclimation facilities at Carlton and Nason Creek, which are up, north and east. And so if you rip out the Corps of Engineers that runs, the Snake River dams, also has, fish recovery efforts. And some people are saying they don't work. Well, I don't know. Okay, so that last thing is, they want to tear the dams out. I was there. They had to cut holes in the dam. It was very difficult. So if you've got this big, huge concrete structure that you're going to get out of there, it's going to be very difficult. And I don't know how they do it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Art Swanek. I farm in Whitman County. I'm also a Whitman County Commissioner, so I have the border of the Snake River and several dams on it. To me, there's really 3 big issues. All of us in local government have a question whether the state's actually going to give us the money they say they are, or the federal government's the same story. When they start talking billions of dollars to do all of this infrastructure work, what's the guarantee that's actually going to arrive? That it's actually going to get. So, for example, Port of Kalama, they've got 7 unit train rails sitting there to put trains on. That's all they can handle. They rely on barges to offload and unit trains to offload in order to load those ships going to sea. And the third thing I'd say is when you look at the Snake River dams, if you pull 4 of them, you only open up 13% of the habitat. You'd have to pull dams all the way into Idaho to open up all the habitat they claim they're going to solve. And really, if you look at the history of how fish management has happened, it's kind of like livestock. They've progressively, for a lot of years, only let the last fish up the river. And what happens is you end up with reproductive fish that come later and later into times like this when we're hot and dry. If you really want to fix this and give a shot at having recovery, you need to let a lot of fish up that river early, change the management structure so you get reproduction and better fish runs. Thank you.
Hi there, Liz Fortunato. I'm currently with Desmond Consulting Group, but I cut my teeth on this issue as a young buck staffer for U.S. Senator Slade Wharton back in the 90s, and then also for Congressman Doc Hastings. So it's traveled and followed me along with my clients. Currently, one is Northwest River Partners, which represents public utilities and member interests concerned about the Snake River dams across Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming. And I just wanted to publicly thank you all for all of your efforts on the dams, but in particular to highlight that just last week, Congressman Newhouse, his position in the House Energy and Water Appropriations Committee, was the champion of an amendment that capped the amount of funds, ratepayer funds, that are being obligated in the agreement with the litigation agreement on the Columbia Snake River operations, that Congressman Newhouse included language that capped the amount that could be spent by Bonneville administration, which is ratepayer dollars in that settlement agreement, and that we could not have had that occur at the federal level without his efforts. And I wanted to take this moment to publicly thank him for that, because it wouldn't have happened without his position on that committee. And we at Northwest River Partners want to thank you for your efforts on that, Congressman. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Keys. I'm a 4th generation dryland wheat farmer.
farmer by Ritzville, and I'm, my side of the family, that's my husband's side of the family, I'm a irrigated farmer in the Columbia Basin Project. My whole entire world wraps around both water and food for the world. I sit on the Washington Association of Wheat Growers Board, I sit on the Farm Bureau Board, I sit on the Columbia Basin Development League Board, and I sit on the Columbia Basin Sustainable Water Coalition. I'm a little bit busy. This is a huge issue that's very important to all of our groups, and I just have a question about the current status of the quagga zebra mussel issue that has come to the top of our talking list through WOG and NOG, and I was wondering where we're at on that to shift attention to the importance of what's going to happen to all these lovely salmon if we get quagga zebras in there ripping the heck out of them and eating all of their food.
So, thank you, Michelle, and we're currently we're working with our 4 state partners, Montana, Idaho, Washington, and Oregon, and have drafted a request to the 4 governors and sent the same request to the congressional delegations in the 4 states to declare an emergency so that we can do some tabletop exercises to develop a preemptive plan that's agreed upon by all 4 states and the tribes, and have those materials readily available to deploy should we get another hit on the quagga zebra mussel villagers in the river, in the watershed. And understanding biological systems is that when you have an invasive pest or species, this happens in our farm fields and in our roadways with yellow star or whatever in our rangelands, you can hit them with your treatment and you're going to get maybe 45% on each side of the bell curve, right? You'll get a portion of them, but you never quite get all of them. And so we have to be vigilant from here on out and have those decisions made, the permitting done, all the agreements between all of the entities so that we can immediately respond and not have a delay in the treatment in order to contain and control this invasive species. And if we're capable of doing that, Congressman, I think that we will actually be probably the first watershed that has preemptive and maintained control on this aquatic invasive species of all the watersheds in the United States and Canada. So I think it's something that we're urgently pursuing, and we'll be pursuing that in our meetings with Pacific Northwest Economic Region meetings next week. And they are taking the lead on this and you should have received the letters written and signed by 16 members of the legislatures in the 4 states.
My name is John Hader. I've been working in the irrigation industry for my whole working years. Came to the Tri-City in the 1990s. So many of the farms along the Snake River, a lot of their irrigation equipment, and seen firsthand what it takes to invest and what the cost is. And it runs into those farms have got multi-millions of dollars, like hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars invested in their operations. The idea of breaching those dams and making the existing infrastructure where it can't access the water because of the pool level, all the pump stations and so forth would become obsolete, it would become inoperable basically, is unthinkable. This whole thing has been it's taken 70 years to get where we are today from when those dams were first installed on the river, creating the water pool and therefore the irrigation access. To think of trying to breach the dams and maybe it takes 3 or 4 years or whatever to get that done, the implication and the devastation that would be wrought on the economy is, to my mind, is unthinkable. You would bankrupt hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars probably worth of economic benefit to the state and to the region. I appreciate the comments that have kind of been voiced here. It seems as though we can perhaps get a little bogged down in some of the nitty-gritty details of it. So I kind of wanted to take a little bit of a zoom out and remember that the previous administration, if I remember correctly, made a commitment that under their watch, the dams would be safe and secure. It's this current administration that have resurrected that concept. So I say, we tell the current administration you're fired. Get out. Don't put up with it. Enough is enough.
Good evening, am I close enough? I'm Christina Wyatt with Big Bend Electric. We're in Ritzville and we serve areas along the Snake River dams, all the way down here into Pasco. And first I wanted to thank you, Congressman Newhouse, for that EPA cap language that was mentioned earlier. We do greatly appreciate it. And while speaking of that December MOU that was put together in closed doors without public power, we appreciate all your efforts to maintain the fact that Congress is the only one that can authorize breaching the dams, and that without Congress there is no breaching. We've seen that there are other avenues that they're attempting, and we truly appreciate your vigilance on that. And as one of the larger irrigation utilities in this area, the whole Northwest, we agree with all the comments on energy security, but also the food security. As some of my neighbors have mentioned, a large of our area is fed by the Columbia Basin Project, and without the Bonneville irrigation rates that help keep our farmers' costs down, and the water they get from the irrigation districts, that expensive food is going to be even more expensive if you could even find it. So that's just a point that isn't talked about quite as much. And so just wanted to bring that to your attention. There have been some good reports on the economic value of that, but the energy cost has not been part of that because it's too hard for them to quantify, but it would greatly reduce the amount of food because the farmers would just be gone. So just thank you for your efforts.
Hello, I'm Nelson Cox. I'm a UD Commissioner in Grand County. I've been a farmer for 53 years, an irrigated farmer. There's two things we haven't talked about. I'm not going to talk about all the things we've talked about, but people's the number one thing. We forgot about people. Everybody wants to talk about everything else, but what about people? So at Grand County, we have 3,000 megawatts of want in our queue for the next 5 years. We just broke a record of 1,050 of in-use megawatts in our county. I guess you couldn't hear me. We got 3,000 that wants to come in. So if we build an SMR, that's going to take us about 12 years. You don't do that overnight. And we're talking 300 megawatts. Doesn't really cure the problem 320. You know, we got a problem with gas. Well, we can build combined cycle generators in a couple of years, but I'm here to tell you people, we're out of power. We're out of power nationwide. We're in a hell of a mess. I'm a food producer. So if we start taking dams out, this is just the start. Then we start working our way up to Columbia. Well, when we get to Grand Coulee, guess what? We got 600,000-700,000 acres of irrigated ground that's jackrabbits and coyotes. Plain and simple. Dan knows my feelings. He's heard me probably more hours than he wants to tell anybody. But I do truly appreciate what everybody's had to say here today, and I'm not going to go through and replicate. But I support you 100% where we're going. And let's keep up the good fight, and let's get bigger bombs if we have to.
Well, this is hell. I'm David Sonic. I farm on the Whitman County, Adams County border. I've listened to a lot of things today. This gentleman hit part of it. You know, we destroyed some populations when we put in the dams. And it wasn't just Native Americans, it was a lot of other people as well. Now we're talking about taking out the dams. We're going to lose Pomeroy. We're going to lose Lewiston and Clarkston. And then we start going up the road. And we take out Uniontown, Colton, Colfax. And I have hit a hell of a lot of communities. That's what I see coming. The lack of electricity is going to be hell. I watched the brownouts, I can't remember if it was the 80s or the 90s. The cost on refrigerators, air conditioners, the grain elevators with their electric motors, those things aren't cheap. And then putting them in and taking them out, let's put it the other way around, taking them out, putting them in. Hell, I'm both directions. That was a horrendous expense. The brownout that happened in 1 year cost those motors over the next 5 years to keep going. We're headed that way again, with or without tearing out the dams. But with tearing out the dams, we're headed that way without any call. Oh, I'll shut the hell up. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Herman Thomason. I've worked in ag for 45 years. I just want everybody to know, just the potatoes, Snake River dams feed about 30 to 35 million people for 1 year. That's where I stop. If anybody wants a presentation for 4 hours, I have one. If you want to be bored with mathematics and numbers, let me know.
Everybody hear that? Silt. 70 years. Anybody else? We are getting close to our time, but we certainly have.
I'm going to ask one question.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Nelson from West Richland, and I just want to say I support everybody's view here that we need the dams. I don't have any, I'm not a wheat grower or a farmer or anything, I'm just retired, and I enjoy the dams. They provide a tremendous amount of entertainment. My question is, I'm curious how the Chevron decision from the Supreme Court impacts the Columbia River Task Force, which to me seems to be a non-congressionally mandated issue, and I'm wondering how you as the congressman might address that issue in the future, because it seems that it's an unelected body providing something that I care about, affecting something I care about.
You know, Lindsay, that's a great question. The Chevron decision, as you know, the Supreme Court took away federal agencies' latitude in determining congressional intent. So, which I think was a monumental decision.
I do also.
As a member of Congress, you know what this means, and I keep telling my colleagues all the time, it means we as a body have to be much more specific in legislation that we pass, right? You can't depend on, you just can't say, okay, agencies, you guys figure it out. You've got to be clear on what our intentions are. So this, I don't know the answer to that question that you have, Lindsay. If chairman applies here. This is not an agency that has taken legislation and tried to put it to work. This is I guess I would say a White House effort.
Yeah, and that's my question.
So I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's a fantastic question, one that I want to, I'll ask some attorneys that are smarter than me whether or not that we can use that as a tool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great idea. Great idea.
I want to thank all of you guys for coming tonight, listening to everything everybody has to say. My name's Chris Beha. I'm the CEO of Northwest Grain Growers. I represent about 2,500 farm families between Pendleton and Spokane. Snake River obviously runs right through the heart of our draw territory. As Perry mentioned, was on our board of directors for 9 years previously. Obviously, a lot of comments about energy, navigation, water supply. I don't need to reiterate any of those things. They're all really important. But a couple things that I haven't heard that I just want to bring to your guys' attention is just how it affects not only our members, but our employees and our communities where we live. So just a couple of numbers, lots of studies out there. I can provide any of this if you guys need background on it. But we mainly barge wheat down the river. We do have a rail, and I can talk about that, but about 90% barge, 10% rail. If we were to convert all of that to trucks and rail, we'd add about 23 million miles of trucking on the road. So a lot of people want to talk about it in the number of trucks, and we want to talk about the maintenance of the roads, but you need to think about the expansion of roads and the environmental impact. So just the environmental impact of 23 million miles is about building a new coal-fired plant about 1 every 3 years. So when we think about, we want to remove the dams for environmental reasons, we also need to think about the environmental damage we're going to do when those dams are removed. Safety went from barging versus rail and truck. There's a Merit Commission study a couple years ago. For every 1 barge fatality, there's 23 rail fatalities and 155 truck fatalities. That's what people aren't talking about when we put 100,000-pound trucks on the road versus when we barge wheat on the river. Really quickly, just a few facts that weren't touched on. Obviously, a lot of talk about the power, but just monetarily, socially, environmental costs associated with breaching the dams, the loss of value in farm ground from irrigated back to dry land, what that does to property taxes, how it affects emergency services, how it affects our schools. Just some stuff that I think people need to be aware of. And again, all these studies have been done. It's out there. The socioeconomic impact of dam removal is really catastrophic for a lot of our small towns. Pomeroy, Dayton, Waitsburg, they're all 1 in 5 people live below the poverty line in those regions. Obviously, higher power rates, all of those things disaffectionately, proportionally affect those people worse. And that's what, in the discussion, is being missed is it's navigation versus salmon, and that's really not. We've had successful salmon returns, we've had successful navigation and power, and all the things that we want to talk about as being important in this issue, but we have to find solutions that solve both issues. Because we need good salmon runs, they're iconic to our region, but at the same time, we need all the benefits of these dams. And let's talk about solutions that benefit both, whether that's in expanding habitat, whether that's in hatcheries, whatever that is. So thank you for your time. Thank you for coming tonight. Really appreciate hearing all of your thoughts. So thank you.
My name is Carrie Marshall. I really want to talk about, we're hearing the reason they want to breach the dams is because of the
fish, they're gonna say fish. The fact is, I had a ringside seat when they put in Lower Granite Dam. It changed the water level, but the fish changed their water level as well. They went to the pond, when they needed the rest, they went to the sides of the deeper water. They didn't stay in the deep water. I was there also when they lowered the water, when they worked on Lower Granite Dam. What they had was a huge, Lower Granite alone, a huge fish kill. All of the fish that were in those little ponds on the sides got stranded in muddy water and ended up dying in that muddy water. So if they think they're saving fish, what they'll do if they breach the dams is they will kill such a huge number of fish, it'll be a century before we actually recover the fish that we have lost. So it's a fallacy.
Are we done? Anybody else? I think there might be a couple folks up here that have a thought or two they want to share. Senator, did you say something?
Yeah, I do. Again, thank you everybody for coming out. Again, I was really trying to be brief in the beginning. Again, I grew up before the dams were built. I watched the transformation of, as I said, western Walla County and southeast Franklin County. And being a Powell County Commissioner, and then now State Senator, we really aren't feeling or talking about the economic impacts also to this state. It's very true that in losing the ability to transport grain and our products coming upstream is going to have a tremendous impact. Right now, budgetarily wise, our transportation, we can't keep up with road maintenance right now without putting that burden on you folks to pay more taxes. We are paying 50 cents per gallon right now is our tax on fuel. If you want to expand the road system, it's going to cost you folks, is what it's going to do. It's going to cost you. When I had the opportunity to speak about the three modes of transportation back 20 years ago, road, river, and rail, we need all three of those modes. You break one leg off of the stool, it's going to collapse. We cannot do it. Rail cannot keep up, road will never keep up, and it's gone. But again, the economic impacts, when I look at Walla Walla County, the transformation of western Walla Walla County into being very productive, it's going to go back to sagebrush, it's going to go back to rattlesnakes. You couldn't make a living on dryland wheat out there. We have the largest apple orchard in the United States in Louis Roche Orchards. It's now First Fruits. They get their water, obviously, from shallow wells and the river. When they say you can just drill the well another 100 feet deeper, you can. The Department of Ecology has not issued a basalt deep water well permit in over 30 years. You're not going to get it. We're already over appropriating Washington State on paper with water. You're not going to get a new water right. So don't think that you're just going to poke a hole another 100 feet and get the same amount of water. You aren't going to. So you have to look at the impact within the state. I look at that now as a state senator. I'm going, okay, transportation is going to cost us. We're going to lose the revenue from the products that we're selling. We have a tremendous investment into Franklin County with food processing. And so if we don't have that ability to bring those products in, what are you going to see happen there? Again, this concern is huge. For a man from Clickitat, I don't know if he's still here, when he was talking about the dams and Representative Simpson, obviously Representative Simpson wants to get rid of our dams, but we have two problems. As soon as you get to Lewiston, you go up the Clearwater, and what do you run into? Warshak. Warshak has no fish passage. You go up the Snake River, you run into Hell's Canyon Dam. There is no fish passage. One of the other rivers that we, obviously the west side is always wanting to remove our dams. We have the Skagit River. It originates in British Columbia. Pristine ground or area for habitat. Flows into North Puget Sound. 3 dams on the Skagit River, no fish passage. They're owned by Seattle Power and Light, which supplies 30% of the power to Seattle. Nobody talks about removing those dams to get those fish into Puget Sound to feed the orcas. But we are focused on 4 dams. Why? Because they're an easy pickoff in eastern Washington, but we aren't going to do it. So I had to get my thoughts out. It's something that I've been involved with my entire life, and obviously as a state senator, I'm concerned where we're going to go if that ever happens, and what it's going to do to the economy of the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Just real quick, I don't know if you all know that Benton County is 94% clean energy between hydro and nuclear. So that's important to us. This is a renewable and sustainable energy source. It's hydropower here. So I think we have to look at that. Also, you could talk about windmills. We're looking at, I know in Benton County, the Yakima.
Speak up.
Okay, so also when you look at windmills, we're looking at that on 47 Hills, windmills the size of the space, hundreds of them. And if you look at that, when it's the hottest and it's the coldest, the wind doesn't blow. I just got in talking to the general manager of our Benton County PUD, and during the coldest time, we actually had to feed energy back to those windmills to keep them from freezing up. So I think we have to look at this. It's an economic hit if we don't keep those dams in place, not only for businesses, et cetera, but for our food and for our farmlands, and generations of families that have farmed those homes and those farms as well. So once again, we will do whatever we need to do in Benton County to support our congressmen to get that done, to sustain and keep those dams in place. So I appreciate the video, man.
Good. Anybody else? I'd share a thought just for a moment. I would love to know if anybody is aware of any solar project or windmill project that can economically make it without subsidies. I am unaware of any. And if you know of one, I would love to know the example, because I am unaware of any anywhere. Good point.
I'd just like to share what happened to Clinton County last winter with our cold spell. And with the power grid that went down, because of lack of power during that cold spell, because there was such a draw, we had so much damage we qualified for federal assistance. And if we take out anything extra that could be supplied to our counties, we don't know what's going to happen during this.
2 minutes, I'll do less than 2 minutes. I think that a lot of folks are speaking to the choir here. We all feel the same way about the Snake River Dams. I do think I see a lot of people in the audience today that come to Olympia and either do lobby work or come with your organizations to talk to state legislators. And we need to have you guys talking to the other side of the aisle as well. We need to be making an effort. And I personally will say that if you asked to come and visit me and you talk to my legislative assistant, I would be happy to see if we could get someone from the majority party in the room on some of those visits as well, because I think it's important that we start, making sure that everyone hears our concerns in Eastern Washington, not just the folks that are representing them from Eastern Washington.
We are at risk of stopping on time, how do you like that? So I want to just say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your engagement. One of the gentlemen said everybody's saying the same thing. Partly that's true, but there's value in that too. But we also heard a lot of different things. So I think that's all worthwhile stuff. One of the ideas that I want to share, you all know people on the other side of the state, right? You all have friends or family over there once in a while, maybe not as often as you used to. Another subject. But one of the ideas, we have to educate the folks, our friends and family on the other side of the state. And guess what? We're making headway. Public opinion over there is shifting. starting to understand that we do need energy, and we are short of energy. You all know we came within about 20 minutes of a brownout last winter. When that starts impacting people on the west side, it's going to get some attention. So spread the word as much as you can. We need your help. The few of us up here can't do it all alone. We need everybody to be engaged. One thing that I always say, and I believe this to my core, the dams and sand can and do coexist. It's true. We've proven it. Can we do better? Absolutely. We can do better at everything. But we can't afford to give up all the benefits that these valuable pieces of infrastructure give us to maybe improve the lives of the fish. There's no guarantee that reaching the dams will actually help the fish. Even my friend Mr. Simpson admits. So I think we should put our efforts in keeping the dams, doing all we can to help the fish. We all want the salmon. I've never met anybody that said, "Hell with the salmon." We want both, and I think we can accomplish that. So I want to thank all of our elected officials up here at the table. Thank you guys for your thoughts, your insights. Most of all, I want to thank all of you for coming, sharing your ideas and thoughts, and keep them coming. You know how to get a hold of these guys. Keep them coming. We still need to hear from you. So thank you.